There's a place in the American West that has remained unchanged for centuries. A magical wilderness called Yellowstone, and the world's first national park. The decision to preserve this grand expanse of wilderness was made nearly 150 years ago by a handful of individuals who wanted to safeguard an already disappearing legacy. Their decision resonated around the planet and into the next millennium. Today, wild places continue to enrich and inspire us. But we now know that saving them alone will not create a sustainable planet.
We as conservationists are really moving well beyond this notion of just creating a national park that keeps people out. Today, the movement is all focused on how to integrate people into nature. To that end, the Nature Conservancy is launching what I think is really the most ambitious campaign of its kind, the Campaign for a Sustainable Planet, one that integrates people's lives into nature and does so in every single habitat type on Earth.
But to be successful, we must change the face of conservation. Expand its scope, scale, and pace, and confront such daunting forces as climate change. In project sites around the world, we are working with scores of partners to protect Earth's habitats, forests, deserts and arid lands, lakes and rivers, grasslands, and oceans and coasts.
You know, the scope and scale of our vision is absolutely breathtaking. But in the end, the Campaign for a Sustainable Planet is really made up of very tangible, lasting, on-the-ground projects in places as varied as the Atlantic forest in Brazil or the coral reefs of Komodo, Indonesia. We can not only see what's happening to this planet, but we actually have the time to do something about it.
We have the time, but only if we act now. Forests are the lungs of our planet. They give us a world rich in beauty and variety, and provide people everywhere with wood, food, and fresh water. Forests also release oxygen and store carbon dioxide, keeping Earth's fragile atmosphere in balance.
Everyone right now, during the last couple of years, they only have been talking about what we can do to address climate change, what I can do to neutralize my own emission, how can I become carbon neutral. And we know that one of the nicest ways to do that is really by planting trees. In our case, we want to not only to plant the trees, but we want to really have those trees to become a real forest.
Brazil's Atlantic forest is among the most depleted forest types on Earth. At one time, it was twice the size of Texas, but today, only 7% of the Atlantic forest remains, much of it in isolated fragments. But hope for its resurrection lies in the hands of local people, like Carlinhos Pinheiro.
Some time ago, I didn't have the goal I have today. That is, to protect nature. Before, I destroyed things. Not anymore. Today, with this job, I've learned to love nature.
Offering local communities economic alternatives that are compatible with forest protection, the Conservancy and its partners will plant 1 billion native trees. By protecting and rebuilding 30 million acres, we will put the Atlantic forest on a path to recovery. And will fulfill equally ambitious goals in forests from Papua New Guinea to the Appalachian Mountains. Covering more than 30% of the planet's land surface and home to more than 1 billion people. Deserts and arid lands are second only to tropical rainforests in the variety of life that they support. Yet today, climate change and development threaten the delicate balance that exists in these dry habitats across the globe. In North America's Chihuahuan and Sonoran deserts, the Conservancy is working to protect more than 6 million acres.
What we want is a sustainable ranching economy that protects both the livelihoods of the people that live there and the biological diversity that we want to save.
Employing a variety of tools, from erosion control to prescribed burns, the Conservancy is creating a conservation model that local communities can follow.
Thus, we can expand a mosaic of conservation and economic wealth to make compatible two ways in life, the socioeconomic side and the biodiversity side. Without these two complements, we couldn't achieve nature's preservation.
Halfway around the planet, Namibia's Kunene region represents some of the last remaining areas of vast, intact wilderness on Earth.
This is a part of the desert that receives almost no recorded rainfall. And yet here we find rhino tracks. What a rhino is doing deep into the Skeleton Coast National Park, only the rhino knows. But it's out here, and it's an amazing thing to find such a big animal living out here. And these aren't old. These were probably just made last night or early this morning. Again, a really great reason why the Nature Conservancy is working in this desert, because of all the deserts of the world, this one has its big animals still intact.
From this African desert to the American Southwest, the Conservancy is mobilizing a full range of private and public partners and a diverse conservation toolbox to secure this most fragile of Earth's habitats. Since the beginning of time, water has orchestrated life on our planet. The natural rhythms of freshwater ecosystems trigger wildlife events around the world. They provide access to critical nursery and breeding areas and carry nutrients between water and land. Water also connects people. Our lakes and rivers quench our thirst and cleanse our souls. The Mississippi River, pulsing through the U.S. heartland. It's part of our folklore, from Huckleberry Finn to Showboat. But Old Man River needs our help. On the lower Mississippi, at nearly 1 million acres, Louisiana's Atchafalaya Basin is the nation's largest swamp wilderness. But centuries of alteration jeopardize its abundance. Here, a blanket of forest stitched together by an intricate network of waterways still stretches as far as the eye can see and provides refuge for hundreds of America's bird species.
It's a remnant, really. It's a remnant of what this entire Mississippi River Valley used to be.
It's a place where people still very much depend on the natural resources to make a living. Norbert LeBlanc has been farming crawfish down here for the better part of his 70 years.
I've been coming to the swamp for about 50 years. Everything I ate was from the swamp, mostly. Crawfish, fish, deer, squirrel, rabbit. Every year it changes. A whole new ball game every year. You never know what you're going to have. So what you're going to do? Just keep catching crawfish.
But for Norbert and the hundreds of craw fishermen like him, that might not always be an option.
It's absolutely getting harder for people here in this part of the world to make a living off of the natural resource base. A lot of people now work offshore on the oil rigs or operate nature tours to close the gap in their income. Generations have thrived here, body and soul, with some good work that lies ahead of us still. We're very hopeful that that'll be able to continue.
Working with local communities and other conservation organizations on the Mississippi and other rivers and lakes on 5 continents, we can protect our freshwater resources, creating solutions that manage water for people and nature. Together, we can restore our mighty lakes and rivers so that the waters that give us life will continue to sustain it for generations to come. They adorn our world with natural treasures and harbor time-honored traditional ways of life. But grasslands are the least protected terrestrial habitat on our planet. The grasslands of North America, stretching from Canada to northern Mexico, from places like Nebraska's Niobrara Valley to the Malpai borderlands of the American Southwest. Warner Glenn's family has been ranching here for 3 generations.
I wouldn't be happy doing anything else. If I'm hunting or if I'm cowboying, that's what I like to do.
But for Warner and ranchers like him, it's a way of life that's become more and more threatened.
I had the opportunity a couple years ago to go over to Kenya and to do a rancher exchange program with the Maasai over there. And in visiting with some of the elders, their concerns paralleled many of the concerns that we had here. How do you get the young people to come back to the livestock operation? Their other concerns there were with some of the wealthier Europeans coming in, and the first thing that they would do is put up some of these fences. And we have some of the same problems here through subdivision. Irregardless whether you're a cattleman in Kenya or a cattleman here in the Sandhills, we face some of the same challenges.
By working with local landowners and communities and collaborating with governments and other partners, the Conservancy is developing and sharing innovative techniques to not only protect grasslands around the world, but to enable the livelihoods they support to survive for future generations. Oceans are the life support system of our planet. An estimated 80% of all life on Earth depends on healthy oceans and coasts. They hold a vast but finite bounty that feeds millions and moderates our climate. While oceans span 70% of the Earth's surface, less than 1% is protected. In Indonesia's Komodo National Park, the namesake dragon may steal the spotlight, but it is the island's surrounding waters that harbor a natural wonderland that sustains all life here. For more than a decade, the Conservancy and partners have been developing new conservation models to keep these places intact and their fisheries abundant. Models that already apply to our work across the globe in the Caribbean. On Andros Island in the Bahamas, fishing guides like Charlie Smith have been working in sustainable ways for decades.
I saw a lot of things that I thought shouldn't be happening. So I said, well, I better see if I can solve some of this problem by opening up a fishing lodge and change it a little bit. Now the fish goes from here. Well, they the teething ones.
Not only did he change it a little bit, but Charlie helped create a sustainable fishing model for the entire region. By nurturing such local endeavors and establishing and exporting innovative models that meet the growing threats from climate change, the Conservancy is rapidly expanding marine conservation on a global scale. For Bahamian fishing guide Sean Leeden, it's about sticking to a pretty simple formula.
Not taking the small fish, not taking the small conchs, not taking the small lobsters, because having to take it all, you won't have it. It's not about just protecting your environment, that would be selfish, but educating the entire world, then we'll have a safe environment for the entire world.
Planet Earth, a stunning panorama of life. For hundreds of thousands of years, it has survived extraordinary changes at the hands and for the benefit of people. But our planet's resources have a limit. And now its greatest challenge is also its greatest hope, humankind. Today, we stand at the threshold of a depleted world. Yet we don't have to step over that threshold. We have the choice, the knowledge, and ingenuity. We only need the will. Today we have the vision to safeguard the fragile yet vital link between humans and nature, and to sustain all life on Earth. We will span 5 continents and the world's oceans, doubling the planet's protected lands and waters by 2015. Please join us on this remarkable journey.
Imagine a place where some of the oldest mountains on Earth enfold dense green forests and shelter an incredible diversity of wildlife ranging from black bears to brightly colored salamanders. Where bald eagles nest in lakeside cypress trees, raising their young during the winter. Where a rugged forested plateau is home to a surprising number of plants and animals that exist nowhere else on Earth. Where more than 8,000 caves teem with subterranean creatures, some of which are only now becoming known to science. Where river otters, beavers, wood ducks, deer, wild turkeys, and elk are now thriving after having nearly disappeared for decades. That place is Tennessee, a special place known for its spectacular natural beauty and blessed with the greatest species diversity of any inland state. Here in Tennessee, we have a lot to be thankful for, but we can't be complacent about our state's natural heritage. This is Scott Davis, Director of the Nature Conservancy in Tennessee. In 2003, the Tennessee chapter took on the largest fundraising campaign for conservation in our state's history with a $14 million goal. Thanks to the leadership of our Board of Trustees and the incredible generosity of supporters throughout the state, the campaign has been a major success. We have put the campaign's funds immediately to work, protecting key lands across the state, such as the spectacular walls of Jericho straddling the Tennessee-Alabama border, property at Roan Mountain, biologically important caves, beautiful tracks at Pogue Creek, Dry Branch, Skinner Mountain, and Orchard Bog, and we also permanently protected 10,000 critical acres connecting the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the Cherokee National Forest. These protected areas aren't just nature preserves. Most of them are now public lands. Thanks to the leadership of Governor Bredesen and others throughout our state government, the Conservancy's been able to collaborate with the state to protect these lands and ultimately open them to the public. It's a partnership that works, protecting Tennessee's treasures while providing outdoor getaways where families can hike, hunt, fish, camp, and canoe for generations to come. But land acquisition is only one of the ways in which we protect land, water, and wildlife. With a small but dedicated staff, we're pursuing innovative strategies to make a difference across the state. In Shady Valley, we're working on the protection and restoration of the last of the mountain bogs in northeast Tennessee. On the Duck and Hatchie Rivers, we're partnering with communities to maintain the remarkable biological richness of these special rivers. And in Tennessee's caves, we're working with local landowners, providing incentives and education for them to manage their properties in ways that protect cave creatures and fragile subterranean ecosystems without tying their hands. Statewide, working with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, we've developed a cutting-edge habitat mapping software package. For the first time, it allows us to pinpoint and tailor habitat protection for wildlife species to ensure their survival. All of our staff's passion and expertise would mean very little, however, without the dedication of our Board of Trustees, the incredible commitment of our 10,000 members, and key support from the state of Tennessee and the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, the Tucker Foundation, and the Lyndhurst Foundation. Working together, we've done a lot for Tennessee, but there's much more to be done. We're at a pivotal point in history when we can still make a difference in how Tennessee and the world will look for generations to come. Recognizing the pressing need for conservation on a landscape scale, the Nature Conservancy is working organization-wide to protect at least 10% of every major habitat type on Earth. The idea is to protect enough of everything before it's too late, not just the rarest or most imperiled species or places. Here in Tennessee, we're doing our part. We're working with the governor and state agencies on our most ambitious project ever. Imagine, if you will, some of the most important forests, mountains, streams, and wildlife habitat left in North America. Incredibly, they're right here in Tennessee, and they're still undeveloped. Now imagine majestic elk, deer, and other wildlife roaming free through protected lands, stretching as far as the eye can see. Imagine your grandchildren and their grandchildren hiking, hunting, fishing, and camping on these wilderness lands for generations to come. Imagine an ambitious new project that could ultimately have as much conservation and economic impact as our Great Smoky Mountains National Park. That's our vision for the future, and thanks to our partnership with the state of Tennessee and its agencies, we're confident of its success. The Nature Conservancy has the scientific expertise, 50-plus years of tangible results, solid corporate and governmental partnerships, 1 million contributing members, and detailed plans for continuing to meet human needs while preserving the Earth's natural systems. Here in Tennessee, our capital campaign's success is enabling us to leverage our strengths and move our conservation achievements to the next level. Can you imagine a brighter, more harmonious future for humans and nature in Tennessee? We can, and with your help, we're building that future every day. Let's continue to work together in saving the last great places in Tennessee.
As the sun rises on a cool spring morning in Tennessee, the Duck River reveals its beauty. The beautiful scenery of this peaceful environment can take your breath away. But there is much more to this lovely landscape. What lies below the swirling waters of this shallow river is truly amazing. It's a living museum of freshwater animal life unsurpassed anywhere on the continent. Don Hubbs, our tour guide, is snorkeling in the water to show us a species of aquatic animal that might seem unexciting or even unnoticeable to the untrained eye. Freshwater mussels.
These will get about this big. They weigh 10 to 12 pounds and live 80 to 100 years.
Don's job with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency is monitoring and protecting the state's mussel population.
Just the sheer variety of the number of different species is what really got me interested in freshwater mussels and the role they play in the environment. You know, it's something that to most people, you might come to a river their whole life and never realize how many mussels are down there on the bottom. All of Europe has only 14 species of freshwater mussels, and here the Duck River alone has 55 species.
The vast variety of mussels, along with 151 species of fish and 22 species of aquatic snails, make the Duck River the most biologically diverse river in North America. And like most rivers in an urban area, the Duck faces a variety of threats. Urban stormwater runoff, sewage treatment discharges, and chemical runoff from farmland can all negatively impact freshwater creatures and the 250,000 people who use the Duck River as their sole water source. Don handles the mussels with care and knows each species by name. Names only a mother could love, like pimpleback, purple wartyback, and pyramid pigtoe. Many of the mussels got their colorful names in the early 20th century from fishermen known as shellers who harvested the shells for use as buttons. They gave them names that described the mussel's texture and appearance, like
washboard because it has these ridges on the side like an old washboard that you would scrub your clothes on. Now where a name like wavy-rayed lamp mussel, you know, came from, if you can kind of look through the shell and see the light shining through a little bit, you know, it's kind of like a lampshade. But painted creek shell, the coloration and the markings, you know, look like something that you might paint on something, the broad green stripes. So you come up with a variety of names. A birdwing, of course, might look like a small bird's wing.
The birdwing pearly mussel is one of 3 endangered mussel species that live in the Duck River. These creatures with very colorful names don't make any noise, and they move very slowly with one slimy foot. It's a very unassuming presence for what is actually an ecological powerhouse.
Well, their main function for a river is they are the natural filtration system. They're continuously pumping water through their bodies and filtering out things like algae and bacteria which can be harmful to us as humans. So they're providing a service to us by cleaning the water. A large mussel like this washboard can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day. And then you imagine a population of hundreds of animals in a square yard of habitat, all of them filtering that much water, they can effectively clean a river.
Being a natural water filter is just one of many reasons why mussels are important creatures to our ecosystem. They're also a sort of canary in a coal mine. A sudden kill of freshwater mussels is a sure sign of toxic pollution in a waterway. They're a vital link in the food chain, serving as a key food source for animals like otters, ducks, and many fish. And finally, they may actually help unlock a key to a devastating disease in humans. Scientists are studying freshwater mussels to determine why they seem immune to cancer, despite being exposed to pollutants in the water they filter.
A lot of our cures for a lot of diseases come from the natural world. And if we lose some of these mussels, then that's a potential genome full of yours.
That's why protecting the river is so important to Leslie Colley. She grew up nearby.
I love seeing how clear the water is. I love seeing all the birds flying along in front of us as we go down the river. The mussel diversity is extraordinary because they're the most imperiled large group of animals on the planet. Freshwater mussels are. That is because of dams and pollution, essentially.
Leslie works for the Nature Conservancy to protect the river and all the creatures that inhabit it.
The Nature Conservancy is the largest conservation organization in the world. We are a nonprofit. We have offices in all 50 states and a growing international program. We are successful because we approach conservation in a non-confrontational, quiet way. We work with a lot of partners, sometimes unlikely partners, and we affect change by working with local people on the ground and getting things done. And that's one of my favorite things about working for the Conservancy, because we really accomplish tangible things that make a difference.
Leslie and the Tennessee chapter of the Nature Conservancy work with communities, businesses, and government agencies on long-term protection of the river's water quality and ecological integrity. The successful strategies the Nature Conservancy uses here at the Duck River can be transferred to their work around the globe.
We've protected over 135 million acres worldwide and over 5,000 miles of critically important rivers and streams worldwide. We here on the Duck partner with a global freshwater team with the Nature Conservancy that's doing work in Mexico and in Canada and in Australia and South Africa. So everything that we do here, we keep an eye to making it broad and meaningful strategies that are transferable to other places, so the things that we learn here in this laboratory of sorts can be used elsewhere as we do our work.
One of the ways Leslie has been successful is by helping people to care deeply about the river.
We cannot tease man and nature apart. And I think particularly in a system like this river, which is a water source for a lot of people and which is a recreational spot for people and is surrounded by farmland in small southern towns, we've got to find really substantial ways to link people to this river and to keep the human uses and needs of this river foremost in our mind, as well as the needs of the ecological system.
Connecting people to the river and putting it squarely within their vision is where nature photographer Byron Jajorian comes in.
Just got some pictures of the bluffs. There's pretty cool stuff on the side.
Byron has teamed up with Homewood Suites by Hilton to bring the beauty of nature to some of our lobbies through his images of the wood duck.
It would be wonderful if it made a person say, you know, I need to get out more. I need to go be out in nature more than I have been.
The wood duck is also a poster child for conservation success. It's made a remarkable recovery from near extinction in the early 1900s. And the wood duck is one of the many creatures that make their home on the Duck River. Byron hopes his images will inspire you to protect the beauty in nature that he captures in his art. Places like the Duck River.
I think we should preserve and save and protect places like the Duck River, because in so doing, I think we're actually preserving, saving, and protecting our own selves, our own spirits, as well as on a physical level. All of our life comes from nature at some point anyway.
I believe strongly that we as individuals have an obligation to be good stewards. It's really not a matter of why we should care, it's a matter of the fact that we have to care. There is a growing and very real sense of urgency about the work that we do, both on this river and really everywhere that we work. And the only way that we can continue to do so is with the help and financial support from people like you.
It makes me feel good to know that, you know, what I've done and what I got excited about, other people are excited about too.
When Byron Jajorian treks into the great outdoors, he brings back a part of it for the world to see. He's known across the globe for his stunning nature photography in calendars, magazines, greeting cards, and some Homewood Suites lobbies.
For me, it's all about discovering things for myself. When I discover something new that I hadn't seen before, you know, then I want to share it.
Byron's interest in nature started when he was a child, growing up in rural Mississippi.
Being down there around the swamps and things, there were plenty of creatures to catch and things to learn about, and so I spent my time wading around creeks and swamps and lakes and streams and going through the forest just catching stuff. Over 40 years ago, this is the camera that I started taking pictures with.
Byron's grandfather gave him his first camera at age 11.
It had roll film. He gave me 3 rolls of black and white film. And I think that was a foreshadowing, because he didn't give me any instructions on what to photograph or anything. And the first thing I did is go gather all of my creatures and make photographs of all of them.
As a world-class nature photographer, Byron captures shots of things that the average person might just walk by.
Well, I call it throwing the rectangle, which is, as I walk through the woods, I know the shape of the rectangle of the image that I'll create and the different lenses that I can use. And as I walk through the woods, I'm constantly taking that rectangle and projecting it all around me and basically judging that as a possible image. There is something that happens as a part of the creative process, I think, where you lose yourself in whatever the image is. And I know things are going good when I feel that happening, and literally hours can go by and I have no track of time.
Byron, quite simply, sees the world a little differently than the rest of us.
As I was working through here, I discovered that the light is coming through some of these leaves and some of them in different intensities. And then behind it is a whole layer of leaves that are lit up. So the out of focus leaves kind of create a light green background for the focused leaves in front of it. And it makes them pop forward. And actually, I'm working with the focus both ways, on the background and on the foreground. So it's really kind of cool. And a lot of those things, you just kind of see the lighting conditions and look up there and start composing until you find what you're, something that's pleasing. Everything I do is my way of sharing my vision of it. It's that, since I was a little child, that's what I wanted to do, is bring stuff in the house and show my grandparents and my parents what I had found out in the woods, and I think this is an extension of that.
So instead of putting creatures in a cage under his bed like he did as a child, Byron now captures them in a much different way, in images.
It's just an arrangement of dewdrops in a spider web, but the thing about it that I think is the most interesting is there's a lot of brown leaves around, and they're reflecting in the dewdrops, and it's kind of adding a golden cast to the image, which I think looks pretty cool. And they're all arranged on one plane, so it becomes more of an abstract than a picture of dewdrops.
And now, unlike the days of his childhood, he is much more content to leave the creatures where he found them.
It's really great if you can observe an animal, an insect, anything, actually living out some portion of its life, and just watch that and let it do whatever it does, and you be apart from it and see how nature's cycle can happen right in front of your eyes if you're patient and can stay with it and watch. That's the great thing. If you can be patient, you can just watch almost any leaf or any little tree or any area of nature for just a few minutes usually, and you'll begin to see things that are going on that in our haste we walk right by and we don't see. But it's everywhere. It's constantly something happening.
No matter what format his images are in, or where in the world they might be seen, Byron hopes that his work touches all who see them in some way.
I hope they feel a connection with nature just kind of instantly. Really, I think deep inside all of us is a need to have that connection with nature. And we can live part of our lives, or in some cases all of our lives, without actually having that connection, but I think we're missing something. And I think people recognize it and feel it almost immediately when they get out.
That's why Byron works with the NatureConservancy to save places like the Duck River. It contains the continent's greatest variety of aquatic wildlife, but faces a threat from explosive urban growth, making it a key site of conservation efforts.
We depend on all of the resources in nature to live on a physical level, so protecting it is obviously important in that way, but it's also very, very important just for ourselves spiritually. I think that's where we are grounded.
Byron Jajorian is definitely grounded in nature and very happy about it.
I absolutely love it. I consider myself probably one of the luckiest people on earth that I have found something that since my earliest childhood was a thrilling thing for me, and I've been able to build a career around it, and when I'm out enjoying myself in nature, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do.